Alright, where do I begin? Okay, first off, I haven't touched this program in ages, and second off, I figured I would make a video about this and how it stands out in the modern age. Dating way back in the 1990s, where virtual machines were kind of a new concept. Well, not exactly. The concept dates back to the 1960s, but in this video, we are talking about the virtualization of the x86 architecture. Now, in order to talk about Virtual PC 2007, we need to travel back to the 1980s. This was when the founding of Insignia Solutions in 1986 brought us Soft PC, a program that emulates x86 hardware originally for Unix workstations before getting ported to classic Mac OS in 1987. This emulator allowed Mac users to install MS-DOS and even Microsoft Windows. Originally a side project turned main focus for the company, Soft PC offered bundles with Windows 3.1, 95, and 98, called Soft Windows. Fast forward to 1996, another company would soon enter the fray, and would give Soft PC a run for its money. Connectix Corporation introduced Virtual PC in June 1997 for Apple Macintosh computers. But unlike Soft PC, which bundles copies of Microsoft Windows, Virtual PC expanded on that by bundling other operating systems like OS/2 and Red Hat Linux. Virtual PC eventually catched Microsoft's attention, realizing the importance of virtualization towards enterprise users, thus managed to acquire the product from Connectix in 2003 as the company was going defunct in August. Now, as for Soft PC, they sold the product to FWB Software in October 1999 so they could focus on developing implementations of Java for the mobile device market. Soft Windows would continue to be sold until March 2001, while a non-Windows version called Real PC would be sold until 2003. Fast forward to 2006, and Microsoft Virtual PC 2004 was made free of charge, while the Mac version remained paid software. Virtual PC 2007 would follow shortly after as a Windows-exclusive program. Virtual PC was a rather popular thing back in the old YouTube days, where people would usually share virtual hard disk, otherwise known as VHD files on the internet. It also became a use case for testing and using various software to varying degrees. It was also a testing ground for showcasing now older malware samples, but more on that in a bit. Many fans of Windows used this program to emulate older versions of Windows, from the very first version up to Windows Vista, though I am not too sure if one was able to install Windows 7, but as time progressed, more newer and fleshed out applications would soon become more popular with the likes of VMware and VirtualBox. As both software allowed some form of 3D acceleration and more support for newer operating systems, Virtual PC 2007 started to become more and more obsolete to use. To make matters worse, by the time people shifted to Windows 8, even in 64-bit, Virtual PC 2007 out of the box would simply crash the operating system. Though there were fixes, but they were geared more towards 32-bit versions and were spotty at best. So the system of choice is the Dell Optiplex 9020 mid-tower PC, which sports a 4th generation i7 processor. This used to be my main computer from 2018 to 2024, which ended up being replaced by my custom-built Vanquisher PC. I originally intended the Optiplex 9020 to be a secondary backup PC for offloading the main PC, but I decided to turn it into a Samba file server for a while, and then later turn it into a Windows XP machine for this video. To put things to the test, I've been running 2 virtual machines at once. It tends to break the audio on certain applications, but I just did that for multitasking fun. On both virtual machines, you have Windows XP Home Edition Service Pack 1 installed, and on the left is playing Unreal Tournament. And on the other machine, it is running the original version of Unreal. Now, as you can see, while I am playing Unreal Tournament, the other virtual machine, which is spectating a bot match, starts to lag. With a workstation PC like the Optiplex 9020, it's kind of neat to run 2 virtual machines in such a machine, especially on such a computer that came out 1 year before the end of support. Normally, older machines at the time would likely crawl when running multiple virtual machines. Windows 95 under Virtual PC ran okay on my Pentium 2, just don't expect it to run mid-90s titles very well. Its performance can be decent to worse, depending on the operating system and the program that you're running. But it's all part of the fun here, especially if you love messing around with virtualization and even emulation for that matter. Sadly, playing MS-DOS games on this is rather flaky, but by that point in time, you could just use DOSBox to run your favorite MS-DOS programs. The main focus is, of course, Office programs and testing certain programs, it seems. While you could run certain games like Microsoft Fury 3, maybe Solitaire, or even Space Cadet Pinball, there are certain games that I've tested that either didn't work due to a certain requirement, or maybe it would work, but certain functions would either not work or just bug out. In the case of one or two obscure Raven Software titles like Necrodome and Take No Prisoners, the input was really buggy or even delayed, which makes these games unplayable. It is safe to say that not all programs can be run, primarily due to the requirement of a 3D capable video card. Virtual PC emulates a 2D video card based on the S3 Trio, though during the Connectix Mac days, if you had a 3D effects card at the time, Virtual PC can actually make use out of it. However, I do not have a working Power Mac to test this out, but who knows, maybe one day. Now, not only Virtual PC and other virtualization software were used to play around with certain OSs and software, but also to try out programs containing malware, without actually risking your computer getting infected and compromised. Which of course has spawned plenty of videos where people typically record and demonstrate older malware samples found on the internet, either on a virtual machine or on a spare junk machine. Now, I don't know why, but it always fascinates me about these malicious programs. Like, to be fair, they are kind of a relic of the past, as most of the time nowadays, it feels like it comprises of rather stealthy ways to get into somebody's account, just to post thousands of videos baiting people into some crypto scam or some shit. Older malware samples, while intended to cause damage to many computers at the time, seem rather interesting to watch from time to time, and no, I am not referring to the many fan-made EXE Screamer nonsense. Those never really interest me, to be honest. Well, there you have it. While it was fun using this program for a bit, there are far more fleshed out virtualization or even emulation software with the likes of VirtualBox and VMware, while emulators such as DOSBox, PCEM, or even 86box have their own use cases. I do believe it's a good starting point for those interested in getting into the vintage computing hobby, at least before you start investing in older tech on the market. At least for me, I started getting into the vintage computing hobby thanks to Virtual PC 2007 alongside DOSBox, not to mention my childhood past of using a Pentium 3. Well, the funny thing is, I first found out about the existence of Virtual PC back in likely 2007 on my mother's Office PC with a Pentium 4 processor. Of course, while my mother never understood the concept of virtual machines and disallowed me from using it, I ended up doing it anyway, and I installed Windows XP on Windows XP, which seems kind of fun actually, especially when I ran Windquake on it. Anyway, if you want to try Virtual PC yourself, it's like what I said before. It is not going to work on modern operating systems, as it will blue screen upon starting up. Now, there are two options I can suggest. What I would probably do is either run it in a VM inside VirtualBox or VMware, which is still maintained and still receiving updates. This idea that I'm referring to is called VMception, which, while interesting to pull off for fun and out of curiosity, I would normally just grab a pretty cheap Windows XP era machine or laptop and just use it that way. But yeah, that's about it for this video. What are your thoughts and memories about Virtual PC 2007 and virtual machines in general? I would like to hear them in the comment section down below. And as always, thanks for watching and peace out everybody. See ya!